heritage and a Navajo man. He teaches with insight on the complexities of American history regarding race, culture, and faith, and in order to help us forge a path of healing and conciliation for the nation. He is one of the leading authorities in the 15th century doctrine of discovery and the influence of US history, and is the intersection of modern day society. He has co-authored several books. So please join me in welcoming Mark, the independent candidate for US presidency.
Yate. Mark Charles Yanashia. Sin Bake Danan Nishle, do Tohiglini Vashichi. Sin Bake Danan Dashiche, do Tohichini Dashinella. In the Navajo culture, when you introduce yourself, you always give your 4 clans. We're a matrilineal people, and our identities come from our mother's mother. Now, my mother's mother happens to be American of Dutch heritage, and so I say, Sin Bake Danan Nishle. Translated, that means I'm from the wooden shoe people. My second clan, my father's mother, or my mother's father, is Tohiglini, which is the waters that flow together. My third clan, my mother's father is also Tsin B'Kedanan. And my fourth clan, my father's mother, is Totochitni, which is a Bitterwater clan. It's one of the original clans for Navajo people. I am so grateful that Sandra gave a land acknowledgement before we started tonight. Yeah. And I want to acknowledge that in my research, her and I were talking about this over dinner, I found that one of the other tribes that was from this land, and we're not sure if it was just a different name for the same group of people or if it was a different tribe, but it was the Manahoac people who lived here. Mm-hmm. This was the indigenous nation, the native nation that lived on these lands. They farmed here, they hunted here, they fished here, they raised their children here, they buried their dead here. These were the people, this was the native nation that inhabited these lands long before Columbus got lost at sea. And it's important to acknowledge the people of the land that we're standing on. I do this because A, we have to remember that you cannot discover lands that are already inhabited. And B, it helps us to conduct ourselves with greater humility, remembering that there is a history, both a beautiful history as well as an incredibly genocidal and violent history that allowed states like Virginia and Maryland and even the District of Columbia to be built up and to be inhabited. I want to say just a few words tonight, just very briefly about the theme you have of remembering the past and reconciling the future. A lot of the work that I do and a lot of the things that I advocate for are actually around these themes. There is an indigenous leader, his name is George Erasmus. He's from the native nations, the Diné people up in the lands we now know as Canada. And he says that where common memory is lacking, where people do not share in the same past, there can be no real community. True. If you want to build community, he says you have to start by creating a common memory. I think this quote is genius and gets to the heart of our nation's problems, especially regarding race, which is we do not have a common memory. We have a white majority that remembers a mythological history of discovery and expansion, opportunity and exceptionalism. And we have communities of color and other marginalized peoples that have the lived history of stolen lands and broken treaties, of slavery, of Jim Crow laws, of boarding schools, of genocide, of massacres, of segregation, of internment camps, and of families being separated at our borders. And there's no common memory. And you cannot look at any point in the history of these United States and find a point where the relationship or the community between the races was healthy. We have to understand when we deal with the issues we deal with today, when we talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, where we literally have hundreds, if not thousands, of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. These are women and girls who have been reported missing by their communities and by their families. They have been just there, nothing is happening. There is no database, there is no record, there is no follow-up. They have just gone missing and nobody knows where they are. Literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these women. And we can listen to our leaders and say we need this new law or we need this new policy to protect this demographic of vulnerable people. But when your Declaration of Independence refers to natives as savages, and when your Constitution never mentions women, you should not be surprised when your Indigenous women go missing or are murdered, and society responds with a collective shrug. We are having a debate in our nation right now that says we need to deal with the issue of slavery and of paying reparations. And I absolutely agree. We need to deal with the issue of slavery and the paying of reparations. But I also have to say something else. Because whenever a corporation settles a class action lawsuit, they do not sign those papers, and they do not agree to pay anything until there is a guarantee that they will not be sued again. And I promise you, if we allow this government to pay for the sin of slavery before they've actually abolished it.
Tell it.
Because if you read the 13th Amendment, what does it say? Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereas the party has been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place under their jurisdiction. We didn't abolish slavery. We redefined and codified it under the jurisdiction of the criminal justice system.
Tell it.
You better tell the truth.
You want to know why mass incarceration is a deal today? Because if you read the Lincoln-Douglas debates, Abraham Lincoln was a blatant white supremacist who did not believe Black Lives Matter. There's a quote hanging at the Lincoln Memorial that literally says, if I could save the Union without freeing a single slave, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. There is a quote hanging at the Lincoln Memorial that literally says, according to Abraham Lincoln, Black lives don't matter. He was a blatant white supremacist who did not believe that Negroes should be voters or jurors or have the right to intermarry or the right to hold office. He didn't think the Declaration of Independence applied to Black people. And after signing the Pacific Railway Act to complete the Transcontinental Railway, he ethnically cleansed the native tribes from Minnesota, Colorado, and New Mexico. Making him one of the most genocidal presidents in the history of our nation.
Tell it. Tell it. Tell it.
Tell the truth.
We have to recognize that in the United States of America, we the people has never meant all the people. We haven't had a common memory. And if we allow this nation to pay reparations for the sin of slavery before they actually abolish slavery, it will never happen. We have to deal with our foundations. We have to deal with these things we are standing on. And this is what my work is about. This is what the doctrine of discovery, my research, is about. I am convinced the United States of America needs a national dialogue on race, gender, and class. A conversation I would put on par with the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions that happened in South Africa, in Rwanda, and in Canada. But I wouldn't call ours reconciliation because that implies there was a previous harmony. Which, if you understand race in America, didn't exist.
Amen.
We need a National Truth and Conciliation Commission.
Yes.
We need to create a common memory so that we can have a better community. Thank you.